We've come to another youth today, and my sermonette for today is called Youths Preparing for Life. Now I know that's a big subject. It's not anything that can be covered in a sermonette. And I've decided that I'll do this one today, and later on I'll do another one, because what I'm talking about today is just like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that our youth has to go through, so much they have to suffer, so much they have to overcome, and so much growing that they have to do before they get to that stage where they're in control. And even then, they need to understand that the control is coming from God and not from them, not from their strength. The SPS of this sermonette is to alert our youth of the dangers and the blessings you'll be faced with as you mature. As children grow, they learn what we teach them, and they apply it in their lives. They also practice some things which parents do not teach them, and which they would much rather they had never learned. Some of these things they copy from parents without any conscious effort on the part of the parents to teach them. Some other ideas and actions they copy from other admired adults and also from other kids. Some of the habits they learn or copy from others are not always proper. Parents are sometimes grieved by the things that children learn and practice. Sometimes these habits and practices are so loved by the kids that they become deeply ingrained in their personalities. They can sometimes find it very hard to give them up, even after becoming adults. So we really have to be careful what we teach our kids, and to do our best to teach them the right thing and to help them and encourage them to practice the good things that we teach them. And we need to do it with gentleness and with love. I know sometimes we could get impatient. It's one of my problems, that when I become frustrated, when I tell the kids, do this, do that, and it's not done, I become frustrated, I raise my voice. And it's bad. It's bad for me and bad for any other parent. So please, when you correct your kids, try to do it with love, with gentleness. Let them know that you love them. So we know that children may learn and follow good examples as well as bad. By keeping close to them, showing them our love and concern, and by supporting them as much as we can, parents may be able to save them from things which destroy true inner value. There are some things which adults would cringe at doing or saying when dealing with another person, things we consider unacceptable to do or say to someone else. But because of peer pressure and wanting to be accepted and admired by the other kids, young people may dare to hurt others. They can even be sometimes vicious. We need to teach our kids how to embrace the good and avoid the bad. I know of 2 incidents in which kids have shown such it wasn't anger, it was just showing off, of course, but such wicked ways that it's really appalling. One incident happened on a school bus. Now, you know the school buses have cameras and you can see what's happening. And this 16-year-old boy came onto the bus and sat on the only available seat. And that seat next to him was a boy who was blackballed. No one was supposed to talk to him. Nobody was supposed to even go near to him. So the ringleader got up from where he was sitting, came to that boy who sat next to the boy who was blackballed, and started punching him out, beating that kid. The other kids were cheering, and a few of them came and gave a few blows themselves. And the bus driver couldn't even get through to them. He had to call the police. And these are things that show how that kids could be very, very hard-hearted. And the fact that all the others were cheering shows that their heart was in it too. There was another incident, a 10-year-old boy, quite big for his age. This we also saw on a video. He was a quiet type of guy. He kept himself and he did things that would make peace. And the other kids came after him for that reason. Because he was quiet, because he was easygoing, they came after him, and they picked one little boy who was much smaller than him to punch on him while everybody stood around and looked. And that little boy was punching him, and he was just moving back and asking him to stop, please stop, please stop. And there's a limit to everything, and this little boy, which was wrong and very dangerous, he grabbed the kid that was in front of him and picked him up like a straw and slammed him on the ground. And that kid got up and limped away, holding his side. And at that time, everybody scattered because this young man showed that he wasn't going to take it anymore. And believe it or not, he was suspended from school for a long time before the matter was settled. We have these things happening, and we don't want our children to be a part of it. We want them to be always on the alert. And we are not, I'm not saying anything that the children don't know. They see it in school every day. They see it in the school system. In Philippians 2 and verse 3 tells us, Philippians 2 and verse 3, it says, "Let nothing be done through strife or in vain glory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem the other as better than himself." Okay. Yeah. So young people know what we're talking about, what I'm talking about. You see these things pretty often in the school system. Don't let your knowledge be wasted. You know how things are. You know it's rough out there. You know it's going to happen to you sometime if you're not very careful. You know what to expect. It's more dangerous than many realize. Be on the lookout for questionable characters and traits. We know that not all the kids behave badly. We're grateful to know that some kids are well behaved and very careful to avoid derogatory behavior. Still, we find that too many are supporting the bad behavior by cheering, by condoning, or even by just being present. If you know a fight is about to happen, move away from that area. These fights are sometimes prearranged. If you know this, stay away from that venue. Sometimes all the kids know at 3 o'clock when we get off, there's going to be a fight in this park or in that corner. If you know it, stay away from it. By being there, you give support to something which is bad. Those who partake in such activities are usually bullies. They love an audience to show off to and to prove how much in control they are. I have a couple of examples of questionable traits. Insulting remarks, criticizing and laughing at others, hurting feelings and demeaning those we don't like, insulting anyone who gets in the way or who opposes something we stand for. Another one is being part of a tight, snobbish clique that keeps others out, especially the less fortunate. This type believes that they're so selective. We're so special. Only a few can be a part of their group. They usually have more material blessing than the average kid, but are usually spoiled brats. Avoid them at all costs. They're usually selfish and careless of the feelings of others. Your job as a good Christian is to do the right thing and set a good example while avoiding such behavior. Another thing is taking the attitude that you are better than others. And this is where the scripture came in, which I gave you before. This is where it should be. Philippians 2 and verse 3. Let nothing be done through strife or in vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem the other as better than himself. Another thing is drawing attention to yourself. That's a bad thing. It's better if you can stay on the sideline and observe everything that goes on. You'll learn more, you'll know more, and you don't get into trouble as much. Showing off in any way. Outlandish dress codes. Oh wow, the dress codes are sometimes just atrocious. But we must remember, we can look and see what is good and what is bad. Remember that we must keep ourselves at a certain standard of respectability. Let us not do anything stupid. Do not show off in any way. Doing anything to draw attention to yourself, to show how good you are. Be careful at all times not to put yourselves nor your friends on a pedestal. Whenever you find yourselves being put on a pedestal, find a way of escape. Accept a compliment gracefully, but be sure it's a fitting compliment before you say thank you. And don't try to prolong the experience. Be humble. Be humble and let it end as quickly as possible. Now, a few examples of blessings. Respecting parents, teachers, spiritual leaders, and others in authority. Respect for others builds up our own self-respect and makes others respect us as well. So remember, kids, that respect is very important. Remember, one day you will be parents, you will be teachers, and you will need the same respect from others. And you would look at some of these examples of blessings, and you might say, "Oh, that's not blessings. That's blessing the other man. I'm showing him up to be more important than me." No, it's not, because any good thing you do reflects right back on you. You're blessed for it. Another one is the ability to teach what you know. Don't be selfish, and don't be afraid to give of yourself. Whatever you give comes back to you in some form. Let's look at Ecclesiastes 11 and verse 1. Ecclesiastes 11 and verse 1. And it says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you shall find it after many days. You do good, good shall find you." Complimenting others when they do good, as well as encouraging them to do better. Don't be afraid that they may be stealing your limelight. The Lord who made everything that exists loves a cheerful giver. And he has a million ways of rewarding us for the most minute kindnesses that we might practice. Let's look at Corinthians, the 9th chapter, and verse 6. 2 Corinthians 9, verse 6. "But this I say, he which sows sparingly shall also reap sparingly. But he who sows bountifully shall also reap bountifully." Every man according as he purposes in his heart. Let him give, not grudgingly or out of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. Don't be afraid to give. Don't be afraid to share. Also encouraging those who are not so talented to learn more and do better. Again, don't be afraid to encourage and help the less fortunate. Don't worry about them learning more than you or doing better than you. What you teach them may enable them to understand the subject matter more clearly, and they may be able to give you a better understanding as well. They may even be able to teach you a few things about the same subject, and yet you are not giving to receive in return. You're not giving for that purpose. This might just happen, this might just follow, but you're not giving for that purpose. You help whoever you can in obedience to God, knowing you have done good, is reward in itself. Love God and love your fellow man unconditionally. Let's look at John 13 and verse 34. John 13, verse 34. And Jesus is speaking. He says, "A new commandment I give you. Love one another as I have loved you." That's a lot of love. That's a lot of love. And if Jesus says to give it, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You can't give too much. Another point is choosing friends who love and practice God's way of life. As Christians in the Church of God, our lights must shine. The world should see it. Our friends may not all be Church of God members, but they too should reflect decency and respect. We have to choose the friends who are decent and respectable. We could easily detect the character of a person. We see and deal with them every day. Every day we're dealing with them. We can see what they're like. We should not discriminate or put one person above the other because of worldly possessions or special talents or lack of them. We should not be respecters of persons. At the same time, we should avoid the company of those who sow discord. We don't need discord. Discord does not help, does not give growth. Not positive growth anyway. And we don't want it in our lives. Wanting to be the center of attention, taunting others, insulting others, backbiting, tail-bearing, show-offs, troublemakers, and others of that type. You don't want them in your life. No matter how talented they may be, how good-looking, how smart, it means they're not using their talents in the right way. Stay away from them. Rather seek the company of those mentioned in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, and verse 22. And how well we all know this. How well we all know this. Galatians 5 and verse 22. And it says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the afflictions and lusts." We don't need that anymore. We have given it up. We've grown above it. And if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another, envying one another. Let us not defer nor neglect practicing the fruit of the Spirit. This is a basic duty of the Christian. There is a guarantee of positive results for all who believe and are obedient to godly authority. We also give encouragement to the non-believers who observe our lifestyle and witness the results we get. Let us keep encouraging our children and helping them in every way we can These are all blessings because there is always great reward for those who love, cherish, and practice the ways of God.